Hello and welcome to Live Your Love. I'm Alishas Story, and I am beyond delighted to have one of my very favorite guests on the show for a blessed second time, Dr. Robert Holden. Robert, such a warm welcome.
Thank you so much. Thank you for inviting me back. We had such a great conversation the first time, and it felt rude to stop.
I agree, 100%. I'm thrilled you are back.
Yeah, well, thank you for inviting me back, and we get to continue the conversation that, of course, began before that last show. We've known each other a while now, and we know we've got so much in common, which is really lovely as well. So it's nice to explore some of that together for sure.
Exactly. It's perfect and divinely orchestrated, I would say. So, listeners, I'll tell you a bit about the truly amazing Robert Holden, PhD. His innovative work on psychology and spirituality has been featured on the Oprah Winfrey Show, Good Morning America, a PBS show called Shift Happens, and in two major BBC documentaries called The Happiness Formula and How to Be Happy, shown to over 30 million television viewers worldwide. Robert is the author of Happiness Now, Shift Happens, Authentic Success, Be Happy, Lovability, Holy Shift, 305 Daily Meditations from A Course in Miracles, Life Loves You, co-written with Louise Hay, and his new book, Higher Purpose. Robert's written 15 books, truly prolific. Robert hosts a weekly show for Hay House Radio called Shift Happens. He contributes daily to his Facebook page, which is a treasure trove. Definitely go there, facebook.com/Dr. Robert Holden. Easy to find. Well, Robert, again, I am so delighted. We have known each other and had such a beautiful connection for over a decade. We have lots of friends in common. And I think the thing that we perhaps mostly bond over is just this indefatigable calling to share love, to spread love, to be purveyors of love. And you are truly one of the most loving individuals I have ever seen, ever heard of, and had the pleasure of meeting. So deeply, deeply grateful to have you with us.
Alicia, thank you so much. You're making me think of the wonderful poet Hafiz and this short poem that he has where he says the subject tonight is love. And I can think of no better subject than the subject of love. Let it always be the subject that we talk about, and it's true, isn't it? That in the end, I think all of the great inquiries lead to love. They must. For our sake and everybody else's sake as well. It is the great work. To love and be loved is the great work.
Robert, let's start with calling in the light, really invoking the spirit. And what I would love to do, which I've never done before, is I will start and I would love to finish. Would that be okay?
Of course, I'd love to do that. Thank you very much.
Wonderful. So, beloved listeners and viewers, if you would just close your eyes, unless you're driving, in which case just open your heart. And perhaps you place your hands on your heart chakra right in the middle of your chest, which has actually been proven to release oxytocin, the feel-good hormone. And just be aware of the gentle rising and falling of your breath. As you just come present and connect to the one who is breathing you. And with this next breath, just breathe in deeply all the way into your belly and open your heart and breathe in all the love of the universe. And as you exhale, you just melt and let go of anything less than love. From this next breath, breathe in joy, the imminent joy of this gathering of spirit. And as you exhale, let go of anything less than joy. And just keep breathing in love and breathing out anything less as we open and ask to call ourselves forward into the light of the Holy Spirit, the light of the Christ. Just asking that any negativity, karma, anything that's less than love be taken and transmuted, that this be a gathering of love, of light of spirit in every way that only the highest good would come forward, that Robert and I would be vessels of divine intent, that each one gathered here, all live, all to listen, that each one be blessed and sanctified, that we touch heart to heart, that we connect and allow this love to radiate out and fill our beautiful planet, that we might each be leaders of love, first within ourselves and then with all we touch, that this might be a tidal wave, an ocean of love. And Robert, I would ask that you take us home.
As we welcome this experience of love into our awareness, let's see if we can really experience the love in our nervous system. Imagine every cell of our body experiences this love. Experience love as a universal energy. An energy that holds up the periodic table of elements and atoms and things. And then allow that love into the heart, as Alisha has guided us so beautifully into the heart space. And you may even want to just imagine that the love comes into you from the back of your heart and out through the front of your heart. A lot of us, we pay attention to the front of the heart a lot, but it's nice sometimes to feel the love coming in from behind us. Gives us a feeling of support. And then we just allow this great experience of love that has been invoked for us. And we experience it in our head center, and we allow our psychology to be blessed by love, so that our psychology now is guided by love, inspired by love, supported by love in every single way. The energy of love, the feeling of love, the mind of love. Love is the greatest intelligence there is. And for that, we are truly grateful as we offer ourselves now as instruments of love. So be it.
So be it, and blessed be. Amen. Thank you. Thank you.
Good. Yeah,
It does. It feels really good. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I want to speak a lot about purpose in this. If we do, God's in charge. But I would love for people to join this is a spoiler alert, to join your Purpose Club, which has just started, which we'll tell you all about. But first, I would love to just talk about a brilliant concept you have in Shift Happens.
Mm-hmm.
And that is the concept that every time you let go of a condition, you create the space to be authentically happy. And I would add, to be loved, to love and be loved, and to be the presence of love. So I would like, if you're game, to play for a moment and you give beautiful questions of, what are the musts you can let go of? In fact, you call it masturbation.
Yeah.
I must have this. I ought to have this. I must have this to be happy, to be successful. My partner must do this to be loved, etc. And by the way, if you haven't read Robert's books, first of all, you need to go out and pick up several of them immediately. But he's very playful, and they're so eminently listenable. I think I just made up a word.
It's a good word.
I love that you're so intimate and playful in your books when you deliver this very erudite information in such an accessible way.
Thank you.
So back to masturbation.
Yeah.
I think I just wanted to say that word again.
Yeah.
Can you and I play with your questions so that our listeners can also play with them? So I'll start and completely reveal my shadow side. If we let go of our musts, we have to know what those are first. So I'm gonna confess first. So one of your first questions is, to be happy, I must. So let's see, to be happy, I must have accomplished everything that I'm capable of accomplishing, and all those things that I don't even know that I'm capable of accomplishing, preferably today. What is yours? To be happy, I must.
Well, I will give you another one, but I wish I didn't find that one so relatable. Oh dear. Yeah, that's usually have a bit of a to-do list. Okay, to be happy, I must know what the plan is. Yeah, I must know what the plan is for my life, and I must know what the future is all about. Yeah. And if I may digress just for a minute, or add a bit more, I was at a parents' evening last night, and I was talking to a fellow parent who was saying that she's trying to help her daughter, who's 16, to be less worried about the future and to know what she'd like to do with the future. And I just said to this parent, I said, look, if you've got any tips, I'm all ears, because I'm still worried about my future and I still don't know what I'm meant to do in the future. It's unfolding the whole time, isn't it? It's like you got to do this stuff live, but there's definitely a part of me that says I need to know what the plan is before I can be happy. Yeah.
Exactly. I love that. And it's said that the greatest fear is fear of the unknown.
Yeah. For sure.
And then and John Roger, who's someone we both knew, says that master addiction is control.
Yeah, there we go. Yeah. Yeah.
So just to piggyback on that, what is a story, what are any tips you have to embrace, to love, to live in the divine unknowing?
Great, thank you. Well, this is where I've got to. Alicia, let's try this on for size. And I'm going to start with a mystical word that I learned about in my studies. It's called anthropos. And anthropos is a Greek word really meaning fully human and fully divine. Now, when I first started out on my spiritual studies, I was dissatisfied with the fully human, and I really wanted to become fully divine. That was the work, and I wanted to leave the human stuff behind. I wanted to leave the fears behind, the doubts behind, the worries. My whole work was a letting go process. I wanted to let go of stuff. And after about 20 years or so, I realized I hadn't actually really let go of anything. I could bury some stuff, I could forget about some stuff, but actually once I was triggered, there was the old fear, there was the childhood trauma, there was the embarrassment of a 16-year-old. I realized I had everything with me still. So I decided, what would it be like, rather than trying to let go of my human self so that I could be more spiritual, what if I could find a way to love my human self and love my spiritual self and love them equally? If maybe the duality I was experiencing between my human self and my spiritual self wasn't because so much to do with the human self and the spiritual self per se, but more my different attitudes to the two. So like I had this loving appreciation for my spiritual self, but I wasn't particularly loving for my human self. I was still trying to heal myself, trying to fix myself, trying to let things go. Like a lot of it was almost like emotional amputation. I was trying to let things go. And eventually I really settled on a path where I thought, no, actually the work here is to be fully human and fully divine. And that, I think, means to really love my humanity and love my divinity. So for example, when I sit down to write, what I'm what I'm hoping for is some inspiration when I sit down to write. But when I sit down to write, I'll notice that I've often got a fear like, well, what if inspiration doesn't show up today? Yeah. What if I've got nothing to say? What if what I write about isn't very good? What if just nothing happens? Those sort of very human feelings. What I've learned to do is to bring those feelings into the light, just like we did just a moment ago. Bring those feelings into the light. And by bringing them into the light and letting them relax in the light, then sometimes I can actually write about those feelings. I can work with those feelings in a whole new way. I didn't have to leave them behind ever. Actually, I couldn't leave them behind because they're here still. So instead of leaving them behind, I'm meeting them with love. And in doing that, what I am now leaving behind is the shame of having those feelings, the judgments about having those feelings, the sense that I was getting it wrong because I was having those feelings, and things change. So yeah, that's my
beautiful.
approach. Yeah, it was different to how I began. Sure, very different to how I began, but it's working well for me to. It's really a model that I think I mentioned it in Shift Happens, that there's a world of difference between self-improvement and self-acceptance.
Yes. Yeah. Yes, beautiful. And to me, that's a greater love, because there is a purposeful, this pretense of separation from God, these bodies, it's purposeful. God didn't go, oops, what was I thinking? To me, spirit is learning so much through us, through everything we do, including all the mistakes and the judgments and etc. So if we can just bring it all into our heart, aren't you the one who recommended that beautiful song, Bring Them All Into My Heart? Wasn't that
amazing? Yeah, that's Mike Scott. Yeah, Mike Scott and the Waterboys. Oh yeah, what a beautiful song. Yeah, bring them all in, bring them all in. One of the greatest songs on equanimity, emotional equanimity. Yeah, so beautiful. Yeah. Alicia, this is it. This is like what you're describing in terms of happiness. We could look at that from a purpose point of view too, and say, I can only live my purpose when, or if, or after, or similarly, to live my purpose, I must, and I ought, and I should. And it's like what we're trying to get to is no, you can do it now. You can live your purpose now. You could, quite possibly experience a moment of happiness right now. Whether the next moment is particularly happy or not, that's another matter. But there is something that's available to us now. And I think that's a great discipline to know that. Yeah, I think that masturbation thing is all about the self-improvement model of I'm getting ready to be happy. I'm getting ready to be more lovable. I'm getting ready to be more abundant. I'm getting ready to live my purpose. And that's okay when we're in our 20s, and it might sort of be okay in our 30s too. But, time runs on and we're going, I've been getting ready for a long time. Yeah. At what point can I just say I'm ready enough? And maybe God's already ready. I'm going to try that on. So God's already ready, because that makes sense. If God's in eternity, then God doesn't have time issues. So we are ready and ready enough. I think that's one of the things I said in my book, Higher Purpose, is you don't have to be entirely ready. You just have to be ready enough. And if we're ready enough and we begin, then normally something comes along to help us out along the way.
Completely. I love that, Robert. That is so perfectly said, or beautifully said. William Wordsworth, who you quote a lot in Higher Purpose, said, one of my favorite quotes is 3 words of his, and it's to begin.
Perfect. No nonsense, straight up. Stop the story. Come on. It's true, isn't it? Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. And we're not throwing the baby out with the bathwater. This desire to be diligent in improving ourselves, to getting closer and closer to being a purer vessel is wonderful. It's just when we use that as a distraction or an excuse, to not live our calling, to not live our love. No.
Yeah. And there's a delay as well, because, you know, one of the things that I've seen so often over the years is that I feel like I've been sent lots of people who, it's like I have a higher opinion of them than they do of themselves in a way. And often it'll be like, well, I'm nearly ready for that leadership position. I'm nearly ready to go and write this book. And I'm thinking, wow, if you're only nearly ready, God help the rest of us, because, you know, like, you're doing great. I think now the only thing that's in the way at the moment is the thought that you're nearly ready, you know. And again, that takes a bit of self-compassion, a bit of love in there. But yeah, it's amazing when you look back in history. I'm thinking actually right now of Teresa of Avila and her amazing work on the interior castle, you know, and that mystical, amazing mystical book. She wrote a foreword to that, in which she begins, the first 200 words are, I can't believe I've been chosen to do this. I'm not really sure I'm the one who should be doing this. You know, I'm not really ready for it, but I do trust, therefore, if, you know, that maybe God thinks I'm ready. You know, and we see this over and over again throughout history, that it seems to be part of the journey that we don't always feel ready for our purpose. And that's something for us to support each other with, actually, to be able to help each other out with that, and to recognize it. That seems to be, you can't sidestep that part of the journey. I think most of us would acknowledge we have to face that part of the journey. Can you relate to that, Alicia?
Only 100%.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And for me, most of the time, Robert, it's about surrendering to spirit as best I can. And if I get that voice that says go, and I follow it, I've never regretted that. You know, it's a start before you're ready, because I can only speak for myself, but I have observed this a lot in my own clients and participants, that our ego is very tricky. Our ego goes, oh, I'm being very humble. I'm not ready. But I can tell, for me, sometimes when I do the I'm not ready, when I'm really being called to share, it's really some part of me not wanting to absolutely surrender into the divine unknowing, into my life is not my own, into I'm an instrument.
Yes.
Right. And so that, you know, my favorite quote on humility is not thinking less of yourself. It's thinking of yourself less. And so for me, if I'm surrendered and I hear go or share, do the show, do the podcast, reach out to some influence or whatever, you know, it's really about me following that higher guidance as best I can, and then slowing down and allowing that to speak through me.
Yes. Yeah. Your lovely go word is, I have it as a sort of as the yes, my yes voice. And I sometimes call it the sacred yes. And you know, I'm not particularly short of ideas for work, but what I really pay attention to is the sacred yes. When I get that feeling, there's a yes. And that's what happened with Purpose Club. One day I was speaking to somebody who was just saying, like, I'm really ready to go, but I feel like I've got my foot on the accelerator and the brake at the same time. And I think what I really, really need is some sort of support, you know, something like a Purpose Club. And that was when the idea for Purpose Club came, like the sacred yes just was like, great. But what's so interesting, I think, with the purpose is, like, I could be asking right now, well, or I could be saying, like, well, in order to know what the Purpose Club is, I must know the whole plan for what Purpose Club is. I must know exactly what it is. I must be completely ready. And again, you know, hopefully everybody listening can put their own spin on this. but it's like, we just, like you say, we just have to be, we've got to start before we're ready. We've got to just be, ready enough. And then I think what happens, especially when we're living a purpose-centered life, my feeling is that the purpose of what we're up to gets revealed to us as we go. We don't get given the purpose up front. It would be nice, and I have certainly put in a request for the software of the universe to be changed, so that we everything up front, so we can know exactly what's meant to be going on,
and won't make mistakes. We won't make any mistakes,
or at least that it's going to end well. I would just go for a good ending.
Exactly. Sign me up.
That would be nice. That would be. It is interesting. I'm thinking, by the way, I'm thinking of Joseph Campbell now and the hero's journey, because I've literally just finished. I'm going to be doing the hero's journey with Holly, my wife, next year. We're hosting it for 10 months.
Oh.
I've done this before, and we're doing it up in Findhorn in Scotland as part of the retreat, and then we do classes every month. And so Joseph's on my mind a lot right now. But one of his quotes is that when you follow your bliss, it might be fabulous, but you also risk fiasco. He calls it fiasco. And he's just being real. And he's saying, look, when you follow your purpose, it might work, it might not, according to us. But it's so long as you're following your purpose. The purpose of that, if you're really following your purpose, is that this sense of separation that you have felt in your life and that has been the cause of great pain and suffering. I think separation is humanity's primal wound. If you're living a life of purpose, the good news is you are hooked up to something greater than yourself. And even if you're not completely aware where you're going or how it's going to all work out, the fact that you have that feeling, and the fact that I have that feeling of knowing I'm guided by a power greater than me, that's worth it entirely. Just that. Yeah.
That was so gorgeously said. And I would love to talk about the hero's journey. And, we were speaking before we began about Patty Gifts, who I just adore. She said that the author that ends the book is not the writer that begins it, that they die in the middle and emerge as a new being. Can you talk to us about your hero's journey with higher purpose? And also you said you're writing a book now. I would love to hear more about that.
Well, let's talk about the hero journey just for a moment, so that if people get a sense of this. And I wrote a lot about the hero's journey in Higher Purpose. So the hero's journey, firstly, Joseph Campbell, the amazing Joseph Campbell, who's no longer with us, but wow, what a person. He wrote a book back in 1949 called A Hero with 1,000 Faces. And in that book, he essentially said, look, I've been studying the great myths of creation all around the world, every culture. I've been looking at the mythology of our cultures. And essentially, I've discovered a monomyth. He called it the monomyth, which is that essentially all of the great myths are telling the same story. And the story isn't about somebody else. The story is about us. And the story essentially has 3 acts. And the first act is where an inciting incident happens. And the inciting incident is essentially where we might get kicked out of ordinary. It might be the death of normal. It might be the meeting with somebody remarkable. It might be a flash of inspiration. It might be a heartbreak, but something begins. And in that inciting incident, there is what we would call the calling. And but also within that first act, Joseph Campbell says you have the calling and also the refusal of the call. So we're called to do something and we're refusing it. And I think most of us can relate to that. Yeah, it's
For
like,
sure.
I'm gonna start a podcast. No, I'm not. I'm gonna write a book. No, I'm not. I'm going to become a mum or a dad. No, not yet. And it happens, doesn't it? It just does. There's the call and the refusal of the call. This is all in part 1. And Joseph makes the point, well, we're allowed to refuse the call. However, in refusing the call, we will begin to notice after a while that our life just doesn't have any pizzazz in it. It doesn't have any energy in it. It's like we're listless, like we're okay, but we're not thriving. So eventually we realize we've got to answer the call. Second stage, we cross the threshold. And in crossing the threshold, we now move into the journey. And the journey is, as Joseph points out, a road of trials. And these road of trials are where we will, for example, meet the dragon who on every scale it is written, thou shalt not write this book, thou shalt not take this leadership position, thou shalt not start this project, thou shalt not, do the thing you want to do. And it's an ordeal. It is a journey. And it's a big deal, as well as being an ordeal. And eventually, what does happen, it's like the Easter story in many ways, same thing. But the self that starts the journey will have to die so as a greater self can be born. That tends to be, I think, what happens, with big projects, with big purposes. We begin, finally, maybe we begin. The very first thing that happens is it's another stage in Joseph's work. We get swallowed by the whale. So we think to ourselves, right, I'm going to write a book. I know what this book is. We start to write it, and suddenly we get swallowed up by the bigness of the project. And we go, this project is too big for me. And here's the thing, it is. Yeah. It's too big for who you think you are, but it's not too big for who you really are. And that's the hero's journey. Anything we do in life is too big for who we think we are, but everything that we do in life is not too big for who we really are. And that's the great work. And so that's part 2. And then part 3 of the journey is when the hero returns. We come back with the gift from the journey. And the gift we come back with from the journey might look like a book, but actually it's better than that. It's not just the book. It's the person you are now. It's the awareness that you have now. It's the compassion you have now for having gone through that journey. It's you can be a mentor now to people in their journey too, because you can recognize the stages, the initiation, the journey itself, the return. There's so much good that comes from doing it. But these journeys are a death of who we think we are and a birth of who we really are, becoming more of who we really are, if you like. That's the work, isn't it? And yes. This is Joseph and the hero's journey. But this was really, he was pointing out, he just observed this. He says, I'm not making this up. You just check it out. Every great story works like this. And this is true of Greek drama as well. It's all in 3 acts, or every time. There's a lot that goes on in those 3 acts. But any time we're going to live a purpose-centered life, live an inspired life, go for a deeper meaning, we must be willing to be undone. Yeah, we must. It's painful, it's difficult, it's scary, but if we know it's the territory and we understand we didn't take a wrong turn, but it is just the territory, and we're surrounded by good friends and good examples of other people are on this journey too, I think it really helps. Yeah, it really, really helps. And that was one of the things Joseph said. Joseph says, the good news is you don't take the hero's journey on your own. In fact, he has a name for it. He says, if you take the journey that is your soul's calling, and if you really take that journey, you will be met by what he called supernatural aid. And that supernatural aid, it's so true, isn't it? It comes in so many forms. But once you begin your journey in truth, people will appear from nowhere to support you on that journey. Again, the bad news is that they won't appear before you take the step. They'll only appear after you've taken the step. So you've got to take the step, but then the supernatural aid will appear. And it happens, doesn't it? You know this as well as I do. It's how life works. There's always the fear that the supernatural aid won't appear this time. So
Right.
that's why
Right.
we'll often, again, but, sometimes the supernatural aid will be a healer we need. Sometimes it will be financial help that we need. Yeah, it'll come to us in the ways that it needs to happen. I can think of times through the years, Alicia, when like we had nothing in the bank account. And I remember on one particular day, we got a bill in for £30,000. And on the very same day, we got some money that was due in 60 days time. It came in on that day for £30,000. And we were clear, it was those moments that you just go, oh my God, how did that happen? That's supernatural aid. It's, yeah. Life wants you to live your purpose. I do believe that, because you're living your purpose is your gift to the rest of the world. So, and when you know that your purpose is your gift to the rest of the world, you can expect universal help for sure.
Absolutely. I think that was beautifully said. And thank you for walking us through the hero's journey. I think that answered a lot of people's questions about what is that really? And I love, that we are all a hero, as we are all fulfilled to the extent that we are living God's purpose for us. And another way I would put that is living God's intention of us. What was Spirit seeking to learn through us through this incarnation? And to the extent that I can keep sloughing off anything that is less than that is the extent to which I will be fulfilled in my life.
Beautifully said. I so love that. That is amazing. Bear with me 1 minute, Alicia, because I want to share something with you.
Sure.
We started with an Hafiz poem, and here's another one, which I think speaks to exactly what you've just been saying. This is Hafiz, the great poet, sort of compatriot of Rumi, if you like. It used to be that when I would wake in the morning, I could with confidence say, what am I going to do today? That was before the seed cracked open. Now Hafiz is certain there are two of us housed in this body, doing the shopping together in the market and tickling each other while fixing evening food. Now when I awake, all the internal instruments play the same music. God, what love mischief can we do for the world today? So yeah, this shift from an I to a we, I feel that's what living a purpose-centered life is really all about. And I think if we get that and we get back to, like you beautifully said, getting a sense of God's intention, for me, that's a we moment. That's a love mischief between me and God. What I learned, and this goes back to anthropos again, Alicia, when I would hear that voice say, I'm not ready, I used to think, oh, I'll give it a bit of motivational talk and we'll get it ready, and we'll just give it, we'll give it a bit of a pep talk, give it a good affirmation or two, and it should be ready by the time I've finished with it. Then I learned after a while that actually when that voice says, I'm not ready, when I really listened closely, what it was saying was, I'm not ready to do this by myself. That was really what it was saying to me. And the whole point is we have to then agree with that voice and say, you're right. You are right. You are not ready to live your purpose by yourself. You're not ready to write this book by yourself. You're not ready to run this business by yourself. So that must be my note to self when I hear that voice, to remember to do what we did at the beginning of this conversation. We're going to call in the light. Every time I don't feel ready, that's my cue to call in the light. Whenever I don't feel ready, that's my chance to be open, receptive, available, and grateful that I don't do this by myself. This isn't my intention for my life. This is mine and God's intention for my life. We're getting up to some love mischief together here. This isn't just me. this is like creation working through me. That's the one.
Yes. That's so beautifully said. And you know, I'm writing my first book now, and I learned through the process, and it's really what's true for me, to not say I'm writing my book. Most of the time, I have to kind of explain it, but what I say is I'm receiving the book.
Beautiful. Yeah. That's I think when we do it like that, it really, really helps. You know, it's yeah, that's the way to do it. I'm actually thinking as well, I'd love to share with you, if I may. Yeah, just when I'm writing, I do something I just basically set myself up to be able to do what you've just said. Okay, so bear with me again. I'm just going to go and get another book. This is from Finding Love Everywhere.
Okay.
So Finding Love Everywhere, this is basically my collection of poetry.
Which is gorgeous and easy to find, and please pick it up, listeners.
Oh, thank you. So this is Love's Instrument. This is called Love's Instrument. I am a pencil in God's hands. I am here to write love letters from God to everybody in the world. God is ready to write, and therefore so am I. I sit patiently before God and listen for the thoughts of God. I ask God to remove any imagined blocks to writing now. I meet every fear with love. I find it easier than expected to write because God does the work. All I do is listen and take notes and enjoy the process. This is called Love's
Is beautiful. Love's Instrument. I'm going to print that out, and I'm going to put that on my dog's forehead.
Yeah, this one was written in a CC actually, and you can imagine, because you know, yes, I was inspired by Make Me an Instrument. So but yeah, this one, you know, beginning with I'm a pencil in God's hands, that's what I have to do to remind myself that I'm not the one doing the work. I think this is the deeply intriguing thing to me about the being human and divine, Alicia, is that, you know, I think we are meant to develop an ego that has will, that has feeling, and that can think. And at some point, this ego, which we could say is our sense of self, our identity, has to go through a metanoia. It must go through a holy shift. And the shift is that our ego becomes not an identity so much now, but as an instrument. And this shift from identity to instrument, which is what we've been talking about, for me, that's the great work, is to be able to say, I through a great act of will, I have managed to create a self. And anybody who's tried to create a self knows it's really hard work. But we've done it. And we've gone through a lot of pain and a lot of heartache and a lot of wounds and a lot of triumphs and a lot of defeats. But we have pretty much been able to create a self. Now, at this point in the journey, we have to put this self that we made on the altar. And by putting it on the altar, we now say to God, please use me. Yeah. Your will now, as well as my will. We'll call it our will. Not even thy will and my will, our will, the love mischief we can create together. And, you know, your love, not my love, your love coming through me as my love. So just bringing it all together. But I've had this sense that there are these 3 stages to our life, Alicia, that this first stage is the sense of identity. The second stage is the sense of instrument. And then there is another stage. And I think of that stage as just as, I can only call it inspiration, but it's where we realize we're not even the instrument for the love. It's that we realize we are the love.
Yes. Yes.
So it's like I can write most of my little models. I can write on my hand to make them nice and simple for me. And so this is one of my models that I can write on my hand. The ego is an identity. It becomes an instrument, and eventually it disappears into inspiration. And the inspiration is, you know, essentially, if we talk about love, my ego was looking for love. I became an instrument for love. And then I realized I am the love. I think that is our essential arc that we're on.
Yes.
And it's not, by the way, I don't think it's necessarily the way I'm describing it might make it sound like the I am the love is for the last bit of your life. I think you can have all three awarenesses in writing a paragraph of your book. Yeah, you can have all three awarenesses in a moment in a day. And to enjoy all three parts actually is that's a beautiful thing as well. Yeah.
Absolutely. I think that's absolutely brilliant. And it's as well my experience. And you know, we are multidimensional. I know that I used to think, oh, one day I'll be enlightened. And then I got gravely disappointed when I had these great experiences. And then, you know, the next second got distracted. It's like, you know, enlightenment and then the laundry.
Yes.
And and I love what you're saying, because it speaks to the multidimensional consciousness that we have. You know, we do have these different selves, and to my awareness, God, our God self, is learning through all the selves. So what I hear you saying is a beautiful inclusiveness and a dance between awareness of which self we are occupying, so that we are enlightening rather than enlightened. We are in the state of that.
I love that. You know, I really, really love that. Actually, if I may, that's a good moment to tell you a little bit about a workshop that I'm doing with Neil Douglas Klotz on, it's called Soul Purpose. But what we're doing, Neil Douglas Klotz wrote a book on the Aramaic Jesus. And Aramaic is the language that Jesus spoke in and taught in. So it's his original language. And what I wanted to share with you in particular was just one piece from the Aramaic that I found incredibly helpful. And it's to do with the Garden of Eden story and the words good and bad, or good and evil. Now, we all know that this has caused a ton of trouble for us, this good and evil story, for a very, very long time.
Yes.
It sets up a duality which is almost impossible to reconcile. If we try to think of people who are in the evil club, who have ever been admitted into the good club, I mean, I can't even think of anybody. If you're in the evil club, you just have to hang out in the evil club. You can be a bit better, a bit more gooder, but you never get into the good club, you know.
No.
If you're in the good club, well, that's good for you, but there's always a chance you'll end up in the evil club if you mess up. So you've got to be really careful. So we've had this for a long time. The Aramaic.
Also, the evil club is usually is much more loud, has lots more momentum, and is said to be more fun.
Said to be more fun, and there's a dilemma for you.
Exactly. And then there's always this temptation. What if I get called by the evil club, but I think it's the good club, and it's actually the evil club?
It's a mess. It's a mess.
Yes.
That's what it is. And it creates the split. It creates the duality. It creates a massive problem for us. In the original Aramaic, the words for good and evil are ripe and unripe.
Oh.
Now, yeah, when you hear it like that, now you're not in a choice between two different states. Now you're in a process. Now you're in enlightening rather than enlightenment, to your point. That's why when I heard you say this, I just wanted you to hear this and everyone else to hear this. We're ripe or we're ripening. We've got certain talents that are ripe. We know that. There are other talents that are ripening. There's things we're still working on. And that ripening process, if we can find that wholesome and beautiful, and especially again when we're living our purpose, there'll be things that we've got down already, and that's great, and that's our ripe parts, but there'll be these ripening bits. for example, maybe I'm ripening the part of me that still needs to ask for help. Yeah, I'm good at giving help. I'm not very good at asking for help. I'm ripening in that area. I'm getting better at asking for help. Yeah, that sort of thing. Yeah. I'm learning to feel my feelings more. You know, I learned not to feel my feelings when I was younger because it was safer just to think and do. That makes loads of sense. So you're ripe with your thinking and your doing. Now you're becoming more ripe when it comes to feeling what your heart feels. That's beautiful. You're not now a good person or a bad person. You're just a person that is going on the enlightening journey that you've mentioned rather than the enlightenment. I love that. I think that's cool.
I love that as well. Thank you for sharing that, ripe or unripe. And there's such a, there's such an unconditional loving with that.
There is.
That
yeah.
It's like a loving parent going, a little like a loving gardener tending a garden, going, I just need to nurture this a little more. And that's already blooming. That's beautiful. Well, tell us, Robert, when is this workshop? How do we sign up?
Well, the workshop's really sort of right now. It's in the next day or two even. So it might be a bit close, and it's in London. But I just wanted you to even just know about Neil's work. It's amazing. I mean, why would I want to study, some of these Aramaic definitions of these or Aramaic interpretations of these stories? It's because they're kind. And they're wise and they're timeless, and they help us out in a very, very cool way. I think this one will be a bit too quick for anybody to get hold of, but check out Neil's work, the Aramaic Jesus. Neil was the one who gave us the Aramaic version of the Lord's Prayer back in the 1990s. I think when most of us came across this Aramaic version, it was so poetic. And it was very mystical. One of the great clues to mysticism is that in mysticism, I can bring in Joseph Campbell again. Joseph Campbell here often said that religion is like historical journalism. You're just talking about what happened 2,000 years ago, 2,500 years ago, 3,000 years ago. With mysticism, you're always talking about what's happening right now. I love that.
I love that as well.
Exactly. Genesis, the story of Genesis, according to historical journalism, happened in 7 days, quite a long time ago. According to mysticism, Genesis, the creation of the universe, is happening right now. And it is. Go and look at the Webb telescope. Have a little look. You can see universes are created right now. We are being birthed right now. It wasn't just a one-off. We're being birthed right now. Again, that's one of the reasons why I love anytime somebody is living their purpose, they are being continually birthed. It's true. We're giving birth to ourselves the whole time. We're an enlightening, as you've said, not just a thing.
Yeah, exactly. I love that. We're enlightening, not just a thing. Completely wrong. I'm going to quote you on that for sure.
It's yours.
Thank you.
Up together, both get a bio.
Exactly. Yes. It's I love that. And to get even more metaphysical, because why not?
Why not?
What I've heard and experienced is that, of course, when we're in our truest self, we are well beyond time and space, which are really more of again a pretense so that we don't experience everything all at once, but that creation is already complete. There's a beautiful Hebrew term, which I'm going to completely butcher, so forgive my Hebrew, Baruch Beshen, which means the blessings already are. Everything that is, it already exists in this moment as a blessing, so that creation is complete. It's already been done. We've already been lived. There is no time, there is no space, but that spirit's learning or awareness of creation is not complete, because complete is stasis. It doesn't shift, but that God through us is always learning. And if we're always learning, we're both ripe and ripening at once. And so really what we are is the awareness of all this.
Yeah. Wow. And just the feeling of those words that you're sharing with us is so important. You know, it's I used to definitely be somebody who was always fast forwarding towards the future because I believed the future had more for me than the present. So that was what that was all about. I just thought, you know, I'd heard about the importance of now. You know, there was Eckhart with his power of now and the Dalai Lama with his lovely now. And but I always thought that their nows were obviously a lot nicer than my nows, you know. And so I thought,
Exactly.
well, that's very well for them. My now's not as good as theirs. So I'm just gonna work really hard and get to the future. And when I get to the future, I'll find a fabulous now, and then I'll settle down with my fabulous now, and it's gonna be amazing. And it's gonna be really good. And then obviously, you know, over time, I realized, wait a minute, I'm this futurizing thing that I'm doing. I'm never going to find a now because I'm always missing out on the now. I'm always overstepping the now. I'm never giving the now a chance. And then, you know, I listen to you speak like you just did, and you get the sense of if you give now more of a chance, there is a completeness here, actually. It wasn't that now didn't have anything for me, it's that I wasn't sticking around to see if it had anything for me because I was chasing the future. And there is something amazing about being able to be more now informed, I suppose, in our life, you know, and do that. I love that. And again, I think this is the great work, isn't it? We know we're on a journey, and at the same time, there is enough for us right here, right now, that can make the journey be worthwhile whilst we're in the enlightening part of it, not just at the end of the whole thing. Yeah.
And that's what I love about your books, your work, your presence, is that there's such a wide berth of unconditionality, of love, of love present with all the parts. I think that we on a spiritual path can sometimes, or a religious path, or even, you know, a continual self-improvement path can always be on the path of becoming.
Yeah. Yeah. Beautifully.
Rather than realizing that there is no place to come to, that who we are in this moment is simply a process of love, of awareness, of what is. And that's why I love the whole, coming full circle, the Garden of Eden, and letting go of this, good and evil. It was really knowledge. And I thought, when I was young, was like, well, why was knowledge such a problem? Because knowledge connotes a good and bad, an evaluation rather than simply a learning.
That's it. I feel like, thank you for saying what you said. I mean, it's one way I could describe it to you is that I've learned that as I became more emotionally honest, I became more spiritually clear. So I often would say to people, emotional honesty boosts spiritual clarity.
Yeah.
And so the two parts to that story really is that the first part was, I'm going to pretend not to be afraid. I'm going to pretend not to have any doubts. I'm going to pretend to have everything all together. And I'm going to ask for guidance. And frankly, I didn't get very much guidance. It was actually only when I was emotionally honest, I'd say, God, I don't know if you noticed, but I'm like really neurotic right now. Just admitted that, and I was emotionally honest, I found the spiritual clarity was so much stronger. And that's when I back to a human and divine, it was like the more compassionate I can be to the human part of the journey, then I can, also then be more open to the guidance, So I had my days. We were just doing our tax bill, which is a big thing for us, and every year our government asks us to pay more tax, and we do our best to comply with that. But I'll say to the angels, like, hey, I don't think you guys have money up there. We do down here. It would just saying, if you could give us any help with any of that, that would be really lovely. I'm looking forward to the day when we don't have to, do it this way. but down here, this is what we have to do. Can you help? So yeah, you know, divine. I mean, this is one of our themes today, clearly, isn't it? Just to be able to be human and divine together. I think it shouldn't be a choice. I think
Yes,
it can be a marriage.
absolutely, absolutely, a holy marriage. And you know, my book is on angels, as I think you know, and no, there is no money in the angelic kingdom that I'm aware of, and really, and you know, because I also have similar requests of them, and and of course, everything that I need is delivered, not necessarily in the measure that I would like, or the way, or the timing,
Yeah.
but you know, really, what they impart to me is an altitude, you know, to see what is occurring from a higher perspective.
Yeah.
And then when I'm in that higher perspective, then choices, solutions, if you will, just come. I want to go, well, can you just can you just like, can the money can just come? Can you just like give me the money? And
Yeah.
it's really what they do is they give clarity, as you were speaking of,
Yeah.
so that then I'm co-creating the solution.
Beautiful. Wow. Yeah, that's really lovely. What do you, I mean, you know, we've been also talking about purpose. From
Mhm.
your experience with the angels, what have you, is there a nugget you could share with me right now in terms of what you know, what you hear around angels and purpose?
Beautiful. Do you mind if I give that to somebody
Yeah.
who knows a lot more? Okay.
Mhm.
Well, today is, you call it Michaelmas.
Yeah.
We call it Michaelmas. Today is the day of Archangel Michael, which is
Yeah.
just perfect for us to gather on this day. So
Yeah.
let's see what Michael says. Do you mind if I'm personal for a
Yes,
moment?
please. Yeah, yeah.
Right here is Robert. Your voice is the voice of many voices. I speak very specifically to you and the many who have gathered here. But you see, there is no difference. You are one amongst the many and many amongst the one. When you humans differentiate, this person has that, that person doesn't, I have this, I don't have that, it's quite short-sighted. Part of your purpose as a human, and Robert, you have shared this in your books quite eloquently, part of your purpose as a human is to drop the veils of separation, not only from spirit, but also from each other. You are one. Angels are in a collective consciousness, evolve to the individuation into which humans are born. Humans evolve to the collective consciousness of one in which angels are born. This is how we can assist each other. What is your purpose as humans? To be in seeming separation and of your own accord, aligned and surrendered to divine accord, know that you are one in love. To make choices from that love, to listen to that love, to be listened by that love, to be loved immanently, honestly, and wholly present through you, regardless of your actions. We angels learn from you. We learn about individuality and co-creatorship and free choice. What you can learn and receive from us is divine remembrance, and never forgetting that you sit in the presence of God itself right within you as you. Be of good and great joy. You are being lived. You are being loved. You are love itself in every moment, especially to the extent that you surrender and allow God to live you into the divine purpose for which you were created. Amen.
What a gift. Really, what a gift. Amazing. Wow. Thank you so much. I'm just taking that all in, and it's so beautiful. It's, you know, I've just become increasingly convinced that we've got to do this work together. It's the whole point. That's why we have these expressions of podcasts and books and Purpose Club. Is that the whole point of Purpose Club is just that we support each other along the way. All my mastermind programs have been that, really. I just think we just, none of us are better than all of us. It's approach, isn't it? So that was one of the messages I just definitely received right there, was, oh yeah, this is, what we're going through as individuals is what's happening, and this is collective as well. Yeah, amazing.
Absolutely.
So completely, so beautiful. The mantra, or if you like, the mission statement, if you like, of Purpose Club is, I'm just going to read it from the screen here. We each have a unique and shared purpose. We each have a unique and shared purpose, which is to help create a climate change from fear to love. Which is to help create a climate change from fear to love. Whatever our purpose seems to be, whatever it looks like, whether we're a kindergarten teacher or a barista or an actor or an accountant, or whatever it is, I really do believe that the thing we can all get behind right now is this climate change from fear to love. And that seems to me to be the most relevant thing we can be about. And again, just hearing those amazing words you shared, to me, that is very affirming of that, this sense of we're all in this together. We are not just one voice, we are representing the many and the one.
Yes.
Yeah, so beautiful.
Yes.
Thank you so much for sharing that. What a gift, really. You gave me a great gift there.
I'm so glad to hear that. And beloved listeners, Robert has a gift for you, which is this incredible Purpose Club. This is absolutely the perfect time to join. I'm going to tell you a little bit about it, and then I'm going to turn it over to you to tell them more. So you can still, Purpose Club is, and I'll put this link in I'll post the link too, purposeclub.love. Purposeclub.love is where you can sign up, or you can go to robertholden.com, both eminently easy to remember. Purpose Club, you can still get the special introductory offer with a 33% discount, angel number. Plus, you can get a free ticket to and this sounds like an incredible event, Make Me an Instrument, which is soon, next week, October 4th. I believe that's Wednesday.
Yep.
Wednesday, October 4th. It sounds like a gorgeous event inspired by St. Francis. Plus, you get welcome bonuses of over $1,000. It just sounds like heaven on earth to me. Tell us a little bit more about it.
Well, yeah, see, I wrote Higher Purpose, and I've just been involved in so many great conversations since the book came out. And it's with all, purpose is one of those great conversations that is timeless and very current. And I think especially, by the way, since the arrival of COVID and that pandemic, I think more than ever before, we really questioned meaning, purpose, inspiration, and a feeling of now's the time. We've got to go for it more than ever before. And so, yes, I wrote the book. And then afterwards, the conversations on purpose were just enormous. And I did have this feeling, look, how can we support each other more? And Purpose Club is a very, I think it's a lovely idea. Essentially, it all hangs on a 2-hour monthly webinar where you can call in and ask me anything about purpose. It's like a radio show again. which, I ran Shift Happens for 10 years through Hay House. I loved it. I loved the conversations that happened. So I'm resurrecting the radio show in a way. And it's a chance for us to really, really talk about purpose together. We will also, there'll be a weekly newsletter where I share an offering, a deepening practice around purpose. So I'm just trying to make it really practical and have us really support each other along the way. One of the bonuses for signing up is Wayne Dyer's Manifest Your Soul's Purpose. So that's a whole program by itself. There's an interview with me and Reed Tracy, who is the CEO of Hay House, who you've just been interviewed by, which is amazing. And also a purpose challenge, which is a 4-part piece by me. So we start off with a lot of material, which I want people to have. But I think what's going to happen as we take the journey is we'll have these monthly webinars, we'll have these sort of weekly tips. And together, I just hope what we'll do is we'll get really, really clear on what our purpose is. We'll commit and support each other in really, really going for it. My feeling is that more than ever before, Alisha, what we need is just more and more people living a purpose-centered life. I think if we're doing that, then we are connected to something bigger than ourselves. In a similar way, it's the same as like living an inspired life. We've got 900 channels of entertainment right now, and we can't find anything to watch. And the reason is because a lot of the entertainment isn't inspiring. What really moves us is inspiration. And I think we have to shift from an entertainment focus to an inspiration focus. And again, I just feel hopeful for the world when people are inspired and when they are following their go, following their yes, and following their purpose. That's what I believe in. I know the world's messy right now. I know it's difficult. But if we are following that joy, just recognizing our chief point of inspiration and really going for a purpose-centered life, my sense is that's what we're meant to do. That's what's going to help us. And we will create a climate change from fear to love along the way. So that's what Purpose Club is for.
Beautiful. And they can join now until right now. They can go to robertholden.com or purposeclub.love.
Yeah. And if you want to just go and take a look around, see what it's like, you can come and have you get some time and see if you like it or not. And yeah, just look and see what you think. And we've got lots of inspiration along the way. We've got some great guests along the way as well in there, and interviews from my library. I interviewed Maya Angelou 3 times. For example, that will be made available along the way. My conversations with Louise Hay, amazing. More up to date, Ziggy Marley, son of Bob Marley. I interviewed him quite recently. Marianne Williamson, Matthew Fox, one of my mentors. So it's hopefully a place where it's just going to give us a real sense of inspiration for the journey. That's the great hope. None of us can do this on our own. We know that. That's why why we support each other in what we're both up to and what everybody's doing. That's got to do it together.
Yes. Absolutely beautiful. And of course, Higher Purpose, the book is a must read. So check out purposeclub.love. Yes.
Yeah, and I was just going to say, Higher Purpose has been in hardback for a year, and now will come out in paperback in the next couple of weeks. So if you're interested, you can pre-order the paperback, and that is due any moment now. So go to Amazon, you can get it. So that's cool.
And I want to give a special shout out to the Audible version of Higher Purpose, because Robert, I could listen to you all day long, every day, because Robert narrates it himself. And there is, to me, it comes on a carrier wave of love. Your words.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I love doing the audio. That's one of the great joys of being a Hay House author. Doing the audiobooks, it's a cool thing to do for sure. Yeah.
I'm looking forward to that. And if you want to pre-order, but to sign up for my book when it does launch, it's angelicancestry.com. angelicancestry.com. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. So, Robert, thank you so much. This has been such a joyful hour. I want to do a part 3. Just saying.
Yes.
Just saying.
Good. All right. Well, maybe we could look at Hero's journey more, because there's a lot to look at
Absolutely.
in Hero's journey. I think that would be really cool. Yeah.
That would be really cool.
Yeah.
Yes,
Very cool.
absolutely. Thank you so much. Thank you, beloved listeners and watchers, for joining us for Live Your Love with the brilliant Dr. Robert Holden. And we will be back next month with Scooter and Libby Weintraub. Scooter is Eric Clapton, Sheryl Crow, Sting's producer and manager, going to share about love and music. So lots of love. Live your love. We'll see you next month. Thank you, Robert.
It was good. Thank you, Alicia. Thank you, everybody.